one of the things that I tend to do is just look like, yes, we have these new innovations and that's awesome. And what has helped us to get here and to be the incredibly resilient species that we've been, that we are now is kind of devolving. But what are the things that got us here? And one of those things is we did food together. We had this tribal construct. All aspects of this process were done together. We're hunting together. We're procuring food together, gathering food, preparing the food, eating together, definitely, because that was a time of lineage of culture being passed on from one generation to the next. Before the advent of books, that's how lessons of humanity and survival and empowerment were shared with the next generation. And if you look at the definition of the word culture, culture is the shared values, attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors practiced by a group of people, passed on from one generation to the next. That's what it is. So culture was getting passed on around food and celebration. I just came back from my first time visiting Hawaii, and I saw this dramatization of this thing that we've been doing forever in the form of this luau. And people are like, you pay money or whatever, and you're watching this, but this is how it was. We've got the food that was hunted and gathered and prepared and all the things, and we're eating together and we're storytelling and dancing and celebration and music and all these things. These were inputs that our ancestors experienced for centuries, for thousands of years. And then we had our family structures, our tribal structure was fractured. We started to have neighborhoods. But even within that, we still had extended family within proximity. But it's further been divided where a lot of times we're not near extended family. And now, just within the last couple of decades, right, really strongly the last 20 years, we're even fractured within our own household with our nuclear family because everybody is on our devices, right? And our devices have divided us completely. And so we're not even just divided from the people in our household, we're divided from ourselves. We're no longer examining or present with our internal terrain. We're so externally focused in these portals to alternate realities, And so my question was, us moving further and further apart like that, is that affecting our health outcomes? And the data indicates absolutely. And so just in the vein of food, one study was published in Nutrition Journal. This was in 2018. And they found that people who consistently eat in isolation, oftentimes in front of a screen, a device, do in fact have poor food quality and have significantly lower intake of essential nutrients that help to prevent diseases. And that, again, that's kind of a overarching discovery. But if you dig in and look even closer, some researchers at Harvard were collecting data for years on eating behaviors and family interactions. All right. And they found that people who eat together with their families on a consistent basis had significantly higher intake of essential nutrients, but specifically they mentioned fruits and vegetables, significantly higher, and by nature, more essential nutrients that help to prevent diseases in those people. And they had less consumption of ultra processed foods, namely chips and soda. And also they specifically noted kind of detrimental compounds in ultra processed foods that these people are not eating as much. There's something about eating together where our food choices tend to be better. This isn't always the case, by the way, but one of the reasons why is that if we know that we're having family dinner on Monday and Wednesday, like there's subconsciously, you're going to be planning that. Like we know, okay, I know we're eating together on Monday and Wednesday. So what are we eating? Right. Versus like what happens a lot today. And I know it's happened to us many times as well. Like we'll kind of stumble in like, oh shit, it's dinner time. Like I got to feed these kids. You got all this stuff going on. And now we got DoorDash, we got Uber Eats, we got Postmates, we got so many things. And they can bring that food right to your door. Now, of course, there are food choices that are higher quality. We could do that and still sit down and eat together, which we've done many times on our scheduled days to eat together. But here's why that matters practically. Like, what does the data say? Okay. And I'm going to share two studies. One of them is done on kids and the other is done on adults. All right. The one on kids was published in the journal Pediatrics. And they found that eating together with your kids 3 meals a week or more leads to significantly decreased development of obesity in those children, significantly decreased development of disordered eating in those children as well. All right. Versus kids who eat with their parents less than 3 times a week. All right. We start to see obesity and disordered eating go up precipitously. And what is that? Why is that? Again, like we'll circle back and talk about that. But as far as the adults are concerned, and there are many other studies, I'm just sharing a couple of them from the new Eat Smarter Family Cookbook. The other one is done on office workers at IBM. And what they found was that, and this was published in the journal Family and Consumer Sciences, and what they found was that as long as these tech workers were able to make it home and have dinner with their family on a consistent basis, regardless of how stressed their workload was making them, regardless of how stressful work was, stress remained negligible. They were able to basically neutralize stress, process stress, and work morale stayed high. Stress stayed manageable, and obviously productivity stayed high as well. But as soon as other obligations cut into their ability to eat dinner with their family on a consistent basis, stress levels crept up in a way that was no longer manageable. Work morale goes down. Productivity, obviously, again, goes down. They're setting themselves up for a potential problem. And what is that problem? According to a study published in JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association, up to 80% of physician visits today are for stress-related diseases. Stress is like that thing. It seems invisible. I can't eat stress. I'm not necessarily smelling stress. But yeah, you can. You can eat stress. You can smell stress. Things could be, there's a whole inhalation toxicology journal, right? All of these inputs can be stressful in our bodies, and we have each of us an overall stress load, right? So psychological stressors, work stress, relationship stress, food stress, the list goes on and on. It's going to be different for each of us. But it's basically, if you think about stress and how we interact with it, a stressor, we need stress, by the way. We need stress to survive. We need stress to get better. And we put this kind of like exercise is a hormetic stressor, potentially. All right. So this is like when you exercise, you're like digging a hole. And when you allow yourself to recover, you're like adding back, covering that hole, plus a little bit more. Right. And so next time you try to dig in there, you got a higher level of resilience. And if you are actively engaging in stress and allowing your body to recover, next thing you know, you could build up a mountain. And certain shit just doesn't affect you like other people because you've been able to process that stress and make yourself a more resilient creature.
Hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. If you did, feel free to tag a part of it. You can tag me at Aaron Alexander on Instagram. Recently changed the handle from Align Podcast to Aaron Alexander. That was a long process of procuring that mofo, but we were able to get it, which is cool, convenient. So you can tag me at Aaron Alexander. You can also tag Shawn at Shawn Model, I believe is his Instagram handle. And feel free to jump over to the Align Podcast YouTube channel. Subscribe over there so you get each week's videos. That is it. That is all. Thank you all. I'll see you next week.